Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Georgette Truan. I am the host for Real Talk with Miss G and the Gang. And also, I work for the law office of Vincent Davis. And we have my special team also joining us today for the first time, Miss Liz. Hi, Liz.
Hey,
How are you, honey?
Kelsey, good.
And then we have Darren Guai and we have Auntie Barb. Now, Dr. Fowler is going to join us later. Right now, she's doing something very important, and then she's going to be on the show shortly. Okay, everyone? Now, I just wanted to say hi to JB. Hi, JB. And, oh, who's that? That's a new one. I haven't seen her before. Hi, Joan. Thank you for joining us. Now, as you guys know, for the ones that haven't watched the show before, this is the reason for this platform is because we want to bring awareness all over the states about CPS and this corruption of family law and CPS. So as you all know, family law and CPS are completely different entities. CPS is state and family law is you against, you know, the opposite side, one on one. But with the state, you're literally alone. You're literally against the state itself. Okay? The state and county. Now, like the state of California, or you know, you're like dealing with the county and that state separately. So CPS court supersedes family court. That's a huge difference. Because whatever happens in family court, if you have custody in family court, CPS can easily remove that custody from you. 100%. Don't ever think that they're not above the law. They really are above the law. But you just need a shark, an attorney, a specific attorney that knows how to win and defend your rights. That's very important because not every attorney knows how to defend the client's rights. If you hire a family law attorney that handles a CPS case, you're wasting your money. Even if it's 2,500, you're wasting that 2,500 because a family law attorney does not have any idea about CPS courts, any idea about state courts. Okay, that's very important for you guys to understand. Um, so we're gonna start the show today with Auntie Barb. Auntie Barb, I know you want to share news with the viewers to help them. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you talking about the article that you said that? Yes, this article is actually, I was looking at it. It's from 2020, and the Sacramento Bee did it, and apparently they're going to be doing more articles on CPS. But this just shows. I mean, this was 3 years ago, and what I read in this article is happening where I live. I can prove violations by CPS. I mean, when a social worker tells somebody that a person has a mental health diagnosis, whether or not that is true, just because of the power a social worker has, people are going to believe that. And for a social worker to tell anybody anything about somebody's mental or medical issues, true or not, that is a HIPAA violation. And I can prove it. And this is something that CPS uses across the country. I mean, like I said last night or yesterday, if Munchausen's was as prevalent as CPS says it is, it'd be the worst epidemic the world has ever seen. Because that seems to be CPS's go-to thing. Oh, she's just crazy. Especially if you can prove what you're saying, then they want to make you out to be crazy because then nobody will even listen to you. So it makes it harder for you to give that proof to somebody because they already don't believe you because you're just crazy. And so this article, I mean, these things, it's like when Dr. Fowler and I, met by accident the other night. She's in Pennsylvania. I'm in California. We have almost the same story. So this is not, everybody thinks, oh, it's just a local issue or it's something with the state. No, this is a federal issue. All the laws that govern this are federal. The money comes from the state, yes, but the most of it comes from the feds. The feds tell the states what to do, so really it's all governed by the feds. And there's got to be somebody. I mean, think about it. If you have an issue with a cop, how many places can you report that cop to? Who can you report CPS to? Nobody. So you have a combination of people who have qualified immunity, so they don't think they can be sued, and no accountability or oversight of a department. And then all this money, and according to the law, to keep getting the money, they have to take more and more children every year. And over 80% of these cases are closed out with no wrongdoing, no criminal acts, no charges, no nothing. The cases are just closed. But most of the time, it's after the child is adopted.
Mm-hmm.
That is human trafficking. They have set up a policy. Nobody can get in trouble. Nobody is accountable to anybody. The money keeps growing and growing and growing, but only if you take more and more kids. And they don't have to have a reason to take the kids just because they're suspicious. Then on top of it, any other court, if I were charged with a crime, I could go to court and I could defend myself. I have my all of my constitutional rights, right to due process, all that. You have nothing in CPS court. You can, if you're married, if it's like, you're not with the baby daddy or whatever, and you're remarried, you can't even take your new husband into court with you because he's not part of the case.
That is correct.
And so they will say people are not part of the case who should be, because like the grandparents and stuff, family members who want the child should be a part to the case so they know what's going on and they can help save that child's life. CPS is under such a cloak of anonymity and secrecy from the bottom to the top. And I mean, there's things like I found out, I don't know if this is true in all states, but here in California, there's different ways that foster homes are licensed.
Mm-hmm.
You can be licensed by the county, the state, or a private foster agency, which is essentially licensed by the state anyhow. So if, like, say, my county, they know this. So guess what? All of the foster homes in this county are licensed by the county.
Mm-hmm.
So you file a complaint with the state and they tell you, they swear up and down, oh, nobody will ever know you did this. It's completely anonymous. Then the state turns around and proves your claims to be true, deems that foster home to be, quote, an unsafe home environment. Kids have access to guns without adult supervision, and then later on prove about the drugs and alcohol. What the state can do, they're tied. They can't go in and take those kids out. All they can do is take that report and hand it over to the people who put the kids there to begin with. Mm-hmm. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to take those kids out of there and protect them? No, because then it makes it obvious that they're the ones responsible for this. So then they force the kids to stay in those foster homes. And what happens to those kids? They get abused. They wind up with severe depression and PTSD from the foster home. They wind up, they wind up having to drug the kids because of what they're going through. Kids are self-harming and killing themselves because of what they're going through. All because these adults want to protect their jobs and their big paychecks. I mean, when the county director of HHS in a very tiny county makes over $18,000 a month, she wants to protect that paycheck. So guess what? Those reports get covered up. Then you're made to be like, you're just causing problems, because they're allowed to go into court and commit perjury and say, oh, Your Honor, all the reports filed with the state have been proven to be false, fraudulent, and unfounded. Mm-hmm. That's perjury. Mm-hmm. And then the cops tell you, oh, well, perjury is not really a crime because it's so hard to prove. So if I kill somebody and it's hard to prove, does that mean it's not a crime?
They're so
this whole system. It's human trafficking, tied up in a neat little bow. Oh, we're child protective services.
No, they're child trafficking.
Profiting
child trafficking.
Child profiting services. Mm-hmm. They profit off of children. Mm-hmm. That's it.
A lot of Americans, and when I say a lot of Americans, I'm saying all over the United States, a lot of Americans who's never dealt with the system, they think that it works. I'll give you an example. There is, like, the media only focuses on, like, I don't want to call it fake news because, but stories.
Right.
For example, they'll hype the story by saying, "Oh, a mother killed her 9-month-old baby." To
Mhm.
make CPS look like, "Oh, we need them. They're so important. We need these people." But they want to do that. But it's not
Mhm.
true. It's
Right.
usually the foster parent
Mhm.
or the adoptive parent that actually killed the child. But then
Mhm.
what does the media say? "Oh, it's the mom or it's the dad." But there's a lot of false information behind everything you hear on CNN. And I'm
Mhm.
not joking, on NBC News, all that. There's a lot of false information you hear.
Yes.
And you guys need to be mindful. And what they want American people to know, the ones who are not dealing with the system, is it's okay. Hey, we need CPS. They're helping children. They're not helping children. Let me
Mhm.
explain real quick why. And Auntie Barb, I'm going to let you continue after this. CPS is a entity
Mhm.
that works through the state. So, example, LA County is an entity that works through the California states.
Mhm.
Therefore, that entity goes out, investigates, and then reports to the state. That state judge or judges are stupid, because the definition of stupid is you hear it, you hear the truth, you see evidence of the truth, but you still believe the lies that comes out of the social worker's mouth. Now, social workers will tell the judge, "Well, I suspect, Your Honor, that the dad is going to kill the child in a year." The judge, "Okay, well, okay, then we're gonna just we're going to cut off reunification, and then we're gonna focus on TPR, which is termination of parental rights." That's exactly how they do it. I'm not
Mhm.
joking. This is exactly how they do it. I work with attorney Vincent Davis. I have gone to hearings with him. I have seen what's going on in family court, in juvenile courts. You guys don't know nothing unless you really investigate on your own and then really know the real truth. Then you have nothing to say and you have no judgment to make because you're full of shit.
Mhm.
So don't judge other parents. Don't judge when people say, "Oh yeah, her daughters or her sons are taken away from her." Don't judge them.
Mhm.
Another thing, I mentioned several times on the show that I have a friend of mine who used to be an investigative social worker. This friend and I met. Before I became friends with her, I had to make sure that she's legit. She's not just,
Yeah.
talking from her butthole, right? So I had to see the onboarding paperwork. I asked to see that. Actually, I said, "I want to see, the hiring papers, like, hey, welcome to the Department of blah, 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 blah. Your shift is," anything that has something about that she was hired. And she showed me everything. She took screenshots of the company phone, the cell phone that they give them. Okay. She took a screenshot of all the messages from her phone that the social worker supervisor was giving them instructions. The social worker supervisor is the one that runs the show in each department. So whatever the supervisor tells them, they have to comply.
Mhm.
So if the social worker goes and tells them there was nothing wrong with the home, the mother is clean, the father is good, the kids are fine, I don't believe the allegation is real, the supervisor says, "I don't give a shit what you think, you're going to get that baby."
Mhm.
Then the social worker goes back to the home the same day and removes that baby. But they will take a police officer with them or two so they can have, like, literally bully you, intimidate you. Because if I see a cop at my door, right, with a badge,
Mhm.
what do you think I'm going to do? I'd be like, "Oh, I must have done something wrong. Well, what the hell did I do?" Right? But you have to comply. And the reason you have to comply because you don't want to be arrested. I didn't know this until I studied and I made myself aware of both sides of law. And of course, Mr. Davis, I mean, he taught me so much. So it's kind of the rest of the American population that don't believe I mean that the system works, they don't understand the trickery of Satan, the trickery of the devil. It's a demonic entity that literally thrives on stealing children, fabricating information in court documents to get what they want. Because remember, the federal government, I think, funds them either 92 million or 92 billion a year. Okay, that's coming out of your tax dollars and it's coming out of your Social Security funds. So just understand that they're not going to take a damaged child to get that child adopted, because the cheapest way to adopt is through foster care. My friend told me her supervisor encourages parents, ones that, not parents, but families, American people, right, to be foster parents for placement or to adopt. And that's the cheapest way. My friend told me she went to an adoptive agency. This is not the ex investigative friend I have. This is another friend. She went to adopt a child. The adoptive agency told her that it would be cheaper for her to get the adoption from being a foster parent. It's going to be free. And then I heard the same story from someone else. So you guys need to understand that this shit is real. And you guys are voting for the wrong people. And I told you guys a million times, don't just vote because you're a Democrat, or don't just vote for a Republican because you're a Republican. You need to be an independent voter. I think all the states needs to be independent voters. There is no red and blue. Show me what you can do. I need to see results. I don't need your mouth moving, because when the mouth moves too much from a politician, you smell shit. And that's exactly what it is. So you guys need to think. We are the people. We pay their salary. Every one of us, we pay their salary. And they have the audacity to fuck with us. That's what you need to think about. That's exactly what you need to think about. And I become passionate with talking about this shit because there's so many mothers who are victims. So many. And you know what's even worse than that? Is when a grandmother or an aunt, right? Think about the Biden incentives yearly for each child, which is $3,700 for a child.
Mm-hmm.
Extra that you get. Now, after that shit happened from this, robotic, idiotic president, everybody now is going against their family. Okay, they're going against the family to divide the family apart, so that way they can get the children. They make false reports against the daughter or the sister or the brother or the wife, and then all of a sudden they get the children. And then they get the money, they get the benefits. But social workers believe them over you because they tell them, hey, if you want the children, you're going to have to get your foster license. Because social workers know if you're not a foster parent, they're not going to get the same incentives that they do if the child is placed in a non-family member home. By looking on the paperwork as a foster parent, even though you're the aunt, you still say that you're a foster parent. They never say you're the aunt of the child or the uncle of the child or the grandmother of the child. They say you're a foster parent. So they know how to violate your rights and your children's rights by creating rules in their entity to violate those rights. So it's important for you guys to get an attorney that specializes with CPS laws and understands your rights, but listen to your attorney. Don't be like some of our clients where they say, Mr. Davis, I want you to do this. I was there. I was in court. I was in court with Davis. I kid you not. I heard how she spoke to him in the hallway. I wanted to kick her behind. Davis said, but Miss So-and-so, I can't do that. That's you're gonna lose. I can't do that. Well, I pay you, you work for me, you do my way. Everybody in that hallway heard her. One attorney came up to me and her and said, you got Mr. Davis himself in here and you're talking to him like that? Damn. And he walked away. Because he said, I couldn't afford a Davis, but you have Davis and you're telling him you want it your way? Your way? I tried to reason with her. I said, please listen to Mr. Davis. He knows what he's doing. Oh, no, I've been silent for a year. I've been silent for a year. I want this. All the attorneys I hired fired me, and I can't deal with this. I said, well, they fired you because you're an idiot. They left your case, rather, because you're an idiot. Your behavior is so badly that it makes you look like you're crazy. She went inside the court. The judge almost arrested her twice. She spoke over the judge. The judge kept telling her to shut her mouth and let her attorney speak. She refused. Refused. Then she had the audacity when she, because the judge said, I'm going to arrest you twice if you don't stop. She had the audacity to say, how can you be my attorney and not object to what the judge said? But you're not letting him talk. The judge even told you, let him talk. Let your attorney speak. So when you have an attorney, don't think you're smarter than your attorney, and let your attorney do his or her job. If you have Attorney Davis, damn, I would like to see one of you guys do that to him again. Because I'm going to be the one you're going to have to answer to. And you don't want me. Believe me. You don't want to hear my mouth. Because I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the vice president himself. I don't care. You know why? Because the grave is the same size. So me, I don't fear men or women. I fear my God. That's it. So you guys need either to shape up or shut up. Unless you know what you're doing or talking about, then speak. If you don't, shut the hell up. And then you lose your own fucking case. Then you blame the attorney for your shit, for your shortcomings. You blame the fucking attorney because you failed yourself, and then you have to blame someone else and destroy that person's character in bad reviews because your ass didn't shut up and your ass didn't comply with what your attorney told you to do. Now, I understand if you have a court-appointed attorney, I get it. They never tell you to do the right thing because they get paid by the state. They don't get paid by you. They get paid by the state. But when you hire an outside attorney, especially a CPS attorney, not a family law attorney, a CPS attorney, they know what they're doing. So don't screw up and blame it on someone else. Take accountability for your own actions, learn from it, and then if you hire another attorney, learn and understand and know what your attorney's strategy is. The attorney might not tell you exact strategy. But Davis is the kind of attorney that will say, do it. This is what you need to do. Do it. But Mr. Davis, do it. But what's the strategy, Mr. Davis? He's going to sit there for an hour or 8 hours to tell you what his strategy is like based on everybody's cases? I don't think so. So you want to drain out your retainer by talking to him for 3 hours so he can explain, like he has the time for this shit. You guys act like Davis sits on his couch and eat bonbons all day. He doesn't. The other day he had 5 hearings back to back. Back to back 5 hearings. He had to rush from one court to the next. So you guys need to understand is that you don't know shit about law. And you might think you know, but being in court with a judge, a state judge, you don't know nothing. Nothing. Because the words that's spoken in court is different than our words. There's a language, it's called court language. If you go inside the court and say, and you address the judge as, hello, Mr. Scott, are you kidding me? He's going to look at you and say, what? No. You have to say, good morning, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor, or no, Your Honor. Your eyes has to be at the judge. Look at the judge. Don't look at your opponent, or don't look at the children minor counsel. Don't, even if she's saying you're a scumbag, don't even turn your head away from the judge. You guys need to respect that judge. Whether you like him or not, respect him or her. That's where your attorney comes in. In order for you to win your case, you can't think of the past. You can't say, well, my attorney did not submit evidence. Well, you're in your TPR stage now. It's kind of late for that, right? Because in court, they also have their own rules. If you want to submit evidence, it has to be done accordingly at the right time, not after the fact. Your other attorneys failed to do that. So the judges are looking at the here and now, not what happened 12 months ago. Now, when the judge disapproves with your attorney, Mr. Davis says you can appeal it. If you lost, it's not the end of your case. You can still appeal it. And people think that they can just get a family law attorney to appeal a case. No, you can't. You have to get an appellate attorney. Mm-hmm. Davis is very well-rounded. He's a civil attorney. He's an appellate attorney. He's a family law attorney. He's like very well-rounded. But you have to be able to get an appeal attorney that understands how to do appeals on top of the game. You guys need to think ahead. But if you think cheap when it comes to your children, you're mistaken. Because it's going to cost you money. This shit is not cheap. It's not. We had a client, a potential client that said to Davis, well, I want you to fly to Ohio to handle my civil case contingency, meaning he'll get the money after he wins the case. But who's going to fund the case for 12 months until the case settles, right? It has to be Davis. That's what she said. So he has to fly. He has to do this. He has to pay his paralegals to process the paperwork. He has to apply for a pro hac vici for another attorney to be with him in court because he doesn't practice in that state, but the judges do allow him to go, but he has to get another attorney. He has to pay that attorney from that state to stand next to him while he's doing the hearings and the talking for you. So you guys need to understand that he is not going to fund every case. It's impossible. Now, if your case is in LA and you have a good civil case, then yes, it's up to him to make that decision. But even then, you still have to put something down. So you guys need to keep that in mind. And you also need to keep in mind when you are dealing with CPS, the first thing CPS attacks is the father, if it's a husband and wife. CPS attacks the father first, separating the family apart. Then they go after your mom and dad and your sister and your brother and your cousins. They're going to make them think you are the scum of the earth and that they've never known you. They never knew who you are. They're going to doubt you. They're going to say all kinds of shit about you. And then the social worker tells them, if you talk to them, your chances of getting the children placed with you is very bad. So they get the mother to be alone. No family support, no friend support, no nothing. Nothing, no support. And no husband support. Because they don't want them apart. You guys have to understand every word I'm telling you is the God honest truth. And I don't just speak because I like to hear myself talk. I am determined to expose the Department of Child Services in every state, especially DCFS in Los Angeles County. Every state, Maine, Pennsylvania, Texas, Arizona, Las Vegas, all states, because they're corrupt, they're liars. And Nancy Schaefer, like I said to you guys many times, Nancy Schaefer was a senator for Georgia. When she exposed the Clintons do have blood on their hands. These mother will have to answer to God when God takes them. They will have to answer to God, and they're going to wish they did things different, because the love of money is the root of all evil. She exposed Bill Clinton. She exposed the Department of Child Services. She exposed the incentives and the money that they get. A social worker, don't ever think that your friend who is a social worker is actually making 33,000 a year. No, she's not, or he's not. That's a lie. Because a social worker can make up to $197,000 a year, from which most of them are incentives, bonuses that they get. So let's not deceive ourselves. Social worker now drives Lexuses and Teslas and Mercedes, not even a Honda Accord. So they send people to your homes to monitor outside of your home. Send people following you everywhere. Everywhere. They harass you, intimidate you, push your buttons. So everywhere you go, they know your every step. They go to the supermarket. They pretend they're shopping, but they're hearing every word you say on that phone to mommy and daddy, or to my husband, or to my sister. They know everything. So you can't be thinking that you know and you're a good mother. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're a great mom. It doesn't matter if you're mother of the year. People that want to adopt children, they want to adopt healthy children. They're not going to adopt a cocaine sniffer mom child that was just born, or a child that was born with meth in her or his system. They're not going to do that. So when they see a good child, a healthy child, they lie and say, "Oh, there was meth in the baby's system." But how come the doctor said it was a clean test? Why all of a sudden you have a dirty test? That's because the nurse, I'm not saying all nurses, some nurses have friends and family members who are social workers. If you have a biracial baby that is cute as B, and your sister, the social worker, or your friend, the social worker, said, "Man, if you see a baby that's biracial, we have this, foster family that wants to adopt." This shit, the corruption, is from within. There's 2 doctors I spoke with. Social workers threatened them. Both doctors said there's nothing wrong. There's no abuse on the child. There's no broken bones. The mother was concerned because the child fell from a couch. Between the couch and the ground was this much, the floor. It was a low couch. The mother is Asian. So when the babies, rolled over, the mother, first baby, she was concerned. So she said, "You know what? Let me just make sure that baby is okay." But the social workers tried to force the doctors to say that there's something wrong with the baby. So doctors said no. But you know what they do? They make their lives hell. They try to get them from practicing medicine. I mean, practicing, like, remove their license from them. So they can't be doctors anymore. So some doctors do comply with the Department of Social Workers. And there's a lot of police officers who comply with the Department of Social Workers, even when they don't have a court order to remove your baby or your children from your home.
Mhm.
If I was a cop, I would be like, "Where's the court order?"
Yeah.
"You don't have a court order?" "Well, I'm sorry, I can't accommodate you." There's a lot of times the officers go with social workers and they see no abuse. Kids are playing Nintendo, mother's cooking in the kitchen, and the father's outside working on his car, changing his oil. They ask the children, "Is everything okay?" "Yes, everything's okay." "Why? What's going on?" "Well, social worker received an anonymous report." "Okay, well, who made the anonymous report?" "Would it be my neighbor? Would it be my, my sister who can't have children? Who's the anonymous report from? Oh, could it be my husband's ex-girlfriend who's still upset that he married me? I mean, you just don't know. But they take a report, anonymous report made of abuse, but then they neglect and fail to really investigate because according to them, they don't have time. They're overwhelmed. They have so many cases. While you wouldn't have so many cases, you assholes, right? If you stop taking so many children who are not neglected and abused, you wouldn't have so many cases. Am I right? I think I'm right. They're not focused on the actual abused child. That's what you guys need to keep in mind. But Auntie Barb, I'm so sorry I took all of the time from you, but
no, you covered everything that I was thinking about today.
But I'm gonna let Darren and Lizzie talk. But Darren, I know you have something to say, so please start talking to.
Well, I'll be honest, Miss G. I think you just hit pretty much the grand slam. I'm just gonna go ahead and add to what you said. NBC News actually put out a news story about hinging on what you were saying about CPS inspecting without search warrants. They go in without any sort of anything, so they're coming in and searching your home. They were saying that 3.5 million homes annually they're looking at, and only 5% of those are found of some reason for abuse to go back to investigate. So I don't know what that number is mathematically, but seems like a lot of wasted time. But there is, however, a gentleman by the name of David Shellac Klein, I think is what his name is. And he's the founder of Family Justice Law Center. So he is filing a class action lawsuit. And I know that we were talking about this yesterday, but class action lawsuit for anybody that has had CPS come in and interfere in their home, do legal search and seizures. One of the big things that they're hitting on is the searching of the kids, like getting them lifting their shirts up, violating their integrity, their types, things like that. They're doing this without, we all know they just come in
without an adult present.
Yeah, they do all this bad things. But, first and foremost, you don't have to let them in your house. Don't let them in your house. Let them stand out there and knock. Like the police come there, it's an intimidation factor. That's all it is, because the police have no business there. That's a civil situation. Go ahead and call the police when they say, me and my brother are fighting over, whatever. And they're going to go, hey, buddy, that's a civil situation. We can't get involved. So it's funny that they can come in with Child Protective Services and, do that type of stuff. But however, so that's important. They're also talking about, I know we talk about body cameras all the time. And I think that's just so important to get these caseworkers body cameras, just because if they're not doing anything wrong, like they say, then what the hell, put the camera on, but we're going to see that they're not going to, because we know what they are. They're not going to show themselves as who they truly are. So we're never going to see the body cameras on them. We're never going to see any of that type of stuff. But, so it will behoove you to always make sure that you are recording them when you're around. Make sure that you have a placard or something on. I know a place that's got t-shirts that say you're being recorded, yada, yada, yada. So that even covers yourself with your personal conversations. Get a microphone pen, get all these things, because when these caseworkers are in your home, man, they're going to lie. They're going to try and destroy you. And like Georgette said, they're not your friends. So don't get in on this good side and think you can start telling them things they already didn't know. That's one of their little tactics that they learn in their sociology is, oh, hey, my Brenda, we're best friends. Oh, my dad, Eddie, used to touch me and all this. And then next thing you know, you've just told these caseworkers stuff that they didn't need, but they're going to be able to use against you. The other thing that means, shut your freaking mouth. Don't answer questions you don't want to answer unless there's an attorney present. If you're going to correspond with them, do it through emails. That way you have physical proof of what they've done. Make sure if they do or something happens, you get a journal. You write everything down in that journal, and then find a way to back that journal up to make sure that, whether it's an eyewitness, whether it's a timestamp, whether you have a security camera that you can say, hey, camera one, it's this. Put everything down to correspond, because even though you'll have the doctrine of truth in your hand, they're still going to try to say that you're a liar. And believe me, that's what they do. So, and the other thing that this article was talking about was Mirandizing somewhat the caseworkers having some sort of like a Miranda. That way, that's not for the people to understand what their rights are, because I think the people are pretty well versed in their rights. I think it's these asshole caseworkers that think that they're God need to be reminded what their rights are. So they're thinking that if, get them to spout this stuff off on an average, I mean, they're taking 3.5 million calls. They'd Mirandize a little bit, so maybe they get it through their thick skulls what the laws really are. You got to remember that Fourth Amendment. Yeah, it's the Fourth Amendment, right? The right to search and seizure your privacy in your own home and your persons and everything. You have that right. Um, this still is, that's yours. Don't let people violate it. Don't let them intrude in it, and especially don't let them do it to your kids. You protect your kids at all costs. You protect, and by meaning that, I'm not even talking physically. You need to outsmart these son of a bitches because they want your kids. They want money. That's what this is all about. People don't understand it. They don't want to understand it. They want to turn their heads. They want to turn this off when we're saying, "Oh, it's about money." No, it is. I hate to tell you, because
This
if
is
you're
not a
talking about,
conspiracy like people say.
yeah, let me
Not,
get my tinfoil hat on. No, dude, it's not that at
not
all. It's real. They're dangerous people.
real.
They're pedophiles. It's like this. We're getting an overwhelming amount of gays and bi couples and all of this stuff that they're adopting these children. And, like, whose end game is this? Like, are we getting, so you're going to take a child, look at this number. Let's do this again. 3.5 million. What's 5% of 3.5 million? I mean, that's got to be like a thousands of something, right? Like, I don't even think it's in the 5-digit thousands, is it? I don't know. But like, that's not a lot. So, number one, they're flawed. And number two, you got to think the family unit is important. Protect the family unit. God says himself, protect the family unit. If we lose the family, we lose our humanity. I mean, that's it. And that's what this is all about. Georgette keeps saying it's demons. It is. And they're real demons. They're not a red devil coming with a horn. They're grosser looking people than that. This is honest to God truth. God's pissed off. He's had enough because people are so wicked. He's ready to end this world. And the kids are our salvation. That's truth. I don't care if you could think that we're all crazy. Look at your Bible. Look at the people that are around. This is what's happening. The end of the world is near, and we got to save our kids. And that's what's important. So protect them at all costs.
Wow, that's perfectly well said, Mr. Darren. Well said. Um, Lizzie, I know you've been waiting for a minute here, but what do you
I'm
have to say
sorry.
about what you just heard, honey? I know I've known you and Dan for a while. Lizzie, I've
Yeah,
known, just you guys don't know this, but I've known Lizzie and Dan for, oh my God, what, 3 years now? 4 years? I can't remember. 4 years,
four,
maybe?
two,
4 years,
four,
yeah. Mhm.
four.
4 years. And her husband is so sweet. And Lizzie is so sweet. She's a very shy individual. But she is also she dealt a lot with CPS, and I think it's because of a family member, if I'm not mistaken, Lizzie. Is it a family member?
Regardless.
Was it a family member that started this whole thing with your case, you and your husband?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, that family member, we're not going to say which part of the family, but I already know who began all of this. For whatever his mind is saying, you know what? I don't trust her husband. I don't like her husband. So I'm just gonna just fuck with them. That's exactly what they do. They retaliate against family, their own family. But that family member is actually married to somebody who's blood related to her. Am I right, Lizzie?
Correct.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of speaking with that gentleman, and I told him off. I said, I can't believe that I know them more than you know them. But he tried to convince me that they're crazy. He tried to convince me that they're full of shit. And it's not true. It's not. Because you guys have to understand the system will always support the perpetrator. The system is designed
That
to support the perpetrator and completely put aside the victim and call them crazy. Okay, but I'm gonna let Lizzie elaborate about what I said, and so you guys can hear and know that there's so many people out there that share your story and your passion. Go ahead, Lizzie.
So yes, we have told our story multiple times, not just on one platform. We've done YouTube, multiple other places. And so our story is quite advanced. One of the good key points of what all this was saying is they don't even come out sometimes with a court order. They don't do due process of law. They think they have the right to just think they can come in and do whatever, and they'll straight out tell you, just don't let them coerce your brain to think you don't have no rights, because you are the parent of these children and you do have rights. They will try to tell you you don't have no rights. Your constitution ain't anything. In reality, your constitution says no government can deprive you of your constitution. Don't let anybody try to tell you that your constitution does not matter. Your children's lives matter. My children's lives matter. Your children are not worth that money that they're holding over their head to grab for your children. No child is worth that. A child is a blessing straight from the God above, not money worth. And another thing I want to point in here, excuse me, is that what Georgette was just saying about Mr. Davis is so true. Don't think you can come in and tell Mr. Davis that this is the way it's going to be and it's got to be my way or another way. Mr. Davis does know what he's doing, and don't try to back him down, because he's very, very good attorney. Do not think you're going to come in and run Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis is a very, very, very compassionate, soft heart, but very firm and knows what he's doing. I don't want to see anybody run Mr. Davis over.
And they do. They do, by the way. I've seen it in
And
court.
I've heard so many people down Mr. Davis. I mean, people have even contacted me and said that he's just a scumbag, a piece of shit. And I will straight out tell them, I don't care what you say, but you're not going to come at me and down Mr. Davis, because that isn't who he is. And I'm not going to stand here and allow you to down Mr. Davis. So if you think you're going to go down and not go to Mr. Davis and tell Mr. Davis this to his face, you aren't going to come to me. You need to go straight to Mr. Davis's face and say it. Because I said, you're not only going to now deal with me in front of Mr. Davis, but multiple others in his group, because I'm not going to stand for it.
Right. See, the thing is, it doesn't, like, if your attorney, because Davis is black and white type of guy. If he tells his client, don't ask me questions, do what I'm telling you to do, that's because he doesn't have time to explain everything to you, right? So when you hire him because you trust him, but then when you hear other negative shit from other people, because they screwed up their own case, but they're not going to tell you that. They're going to make themselves so innocent, so freaking innocent, that there is no way that these people actually screwed up their own case. So what do? Blame Attorney Davis. It's lies. If I didn't show up to court with him several times, I would not know what was going on, because I have a tendency to always believe the parent. You understand? So if the parent says, you know what, Miss G, the attorney did not call me and I've been trying to get a hold of her for 3 weeks, I'd be like, texting the attorney, what the hell happened? Why didn't you call your client? Blah, 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 blah. And then the attorney's like, stop. And then that attorney will send me like the time and date of text messages sent between them. Now, the client said 3 weeks. It's not true. But what do? Oh, it's been 3 weeks and I'm going to write this. I'm going to destroy you guys in Yelp reviews and this reviews. And I'm like, do it. But when I first started with Davis, I used to think, well, I don't want you to do that. That's not nice, right? But then I asked Davis, what can we do to stop this? He said, you can't stop people. If they want to do something, let them do it. But I'm like, but Davis, that's not fair, But he's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't phase him. He doesn't care. I guess he said the good are always targeted first.
Mhm.
So, like, I guess in other words, God's child is
Yeah.
always targeted.
I
So it
have heard
doesn't really
Mr. Davis
matter.
say that the good are always targeted first.
Yeah. So that's why it's kind of, it doesn't matter to him. But to me, it makes me furious though. But
Yes.
this lady said to me, she said, if you don't take this grandmother, if you don't influence Davis to take my case pro bono, I'm going to I'm going to what? Destroy his name on social media. And I just
That's
said to
like
her,
a
I said,
threat,
"Go
ain't it?
right ahead." Yeah, I said, go right ahead. Go right ahead. And she couldn't believe I said that because she used to watch my shows and she knew that used to bother me. But
Yeah.
Davis like told me, he said, if it doesn't bother me, why should it bother you?
People are just so freaking
Every
They're
rude.
so
doctor,
assholes.
there's so
Rude.
many people that know Mr. Davis and that are going to be there to back him up. And I'll say straight out, I'll be one of the ones that'll be there to back him up.
Yep. And
And
that's the
George,
I
I
I do
love
back
the
him.
way you advocate for people and you help
Yeah.
people and you're there for them. You spend day in and day out, just doing what you can. And I mean, it's not going to be easy for you. And I'm sure it takes your health down. But I do want to say one thing. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us and all the compassion, the love you put in. And also Mr. Davis and the time that we've spent with him.
I got you guys, Davis. I remember I made
Mhm.
sure I think I used to call you guys like all hours of the night. Me
Oh,
and Liz
yeah.
would talk for hours and hours, like what 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
Lizzie, go to bed now. But um, I I don't get credit because I actually believe that credit should go to God because
Mhm.
God uses people, certain people. God puts you in a situation that you think is so horrifying, but actually
Yep.
it's to strengthen you, to get you to help people and have love for people and compassion for people because you understand the corruption out there. You
Mhm.
understand how things work. So those
Yep.
people need you. But I'm the type of person, and I think Davis said it on the show one time. If you come at me rude and with an authoritative attitude, you're going to really, really taste Miss G in a
Mhm.
very different manner.
I
But if you
remember
come
that one.
you know what I mean. But if you come at me with help, like I really need your help, please help me.
Yep.
I will do everything for you, everything that I can. So don't think you can come at me with disrespect, right? And a delusional behavior and psychotic behavior, and you think I'm going to continue to talk to you. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have time for the bullshit because there's so many people that need help. I have time for them, but I don't have time for your
Yep.
idiotic behavior. So grow the hell up. If you need help, address it. Talk to people and respectfully. Do everything you can to help others. Even if you don't have a CPS case, do everything you can to help others. And don't always assume that CPS took a child because the mother is bad or the father is bad.
Or
I have
CPS. Another thing I hear is CPS just don't come in and take your children for no reason. There's obviously a reason. Not necessarily. They can come in and remove your children for no reason. But a lot of
Lizzie,
people think
Lizzie,
through that.
but Lizzie, I had 3 clients that told me the same thing before they hired us. They said to
Wow.
me, they said, Bridget, we used to judge people
Mm-hmm.
and they used to think CPS works. She said, until
Hmm.
it happened to my daughter, that I
Aha.
will never trust the system again. She's a
So it
school
took
teacher.
them to experience it and to see it firsthand to
Yeah,
make them realize.
her daughter is a school
Yeah.
teacher. Her husband divorced her, but she has 4 kids.
Okay.
The
Yep.
husband didn't want to pay child support for the children. So his mother reported her to CPS. And guess
Wow.
what? they believed the perpetrator, the abuser. He used to abuse her.
Yep.
So his mother reported her, and then the children, all 4 children, went to him.
That's CPS for you. Like
And she
they'll
lost
take
her teacher's
put
license.
them
She lost her
abuser
teacher's
home.
license. Right. She lost her teacher's license because she said they told her that she was on the state khaki list as child abuser.
Wow.
Yep.
The protective parent they accused and said was the abuser when the abusing parent was the one they put the child with, and that parent was the abuser. Like that's one thing that, like, if they would properly do their due process, they would be able to find that a lot of these homes that they're doing this to, the children that they're placing in the homes is where they're placing them is the abuser's home. They're not placing them in the protected parent home, they're placing them in the abusive home. And that's a lot of the same way with like foster care even versus the parents' home. There's way more foster children put out in foster care that are coming from perfectly fine homes, perfectly protected parents, putting them into foster homes that are nothing but abusive. I mean, I'll state it. I've been there my own self. I was adopted. I've been through the system myself. My own kids have been there. So I'm not only impacted from it in my own experience, but also as from my experience as a mother of children.
Correct.
So I've
Correct.
experienced both angles as a child myself and as a parent myself. And I've seen how they do it with children because of me going through the system as a child and how abused I was as a child in the system. Then I got to experience it as a mother to my own babies in the system and how they abused not only the father and mother if you're married, and if you're separated, typically it's against the mother, not always. That always depends there again how it's done. But a lot of times it's coming out toward the mother, the hatred and anger, the retaliation, all that kind of stuff is coming out on mom. And the dad's the goody two shoes type deal. But in our situation, my husband and I are married. So it was more so there again, it was more so mom's a bad person, dad's a goody two shoes. They also tried to say that my husband and I weren't married, which was irrelevant. They could easily pull that in on public record. Like that's public record. Like they could have pulled that. They chose not to do their due diligence to research into the case to verify information.
But they
That's a
have
big
the fabricated information. They
from
literally
its
tell you
abuse.
they're not married, but they say she's not married. Do you see that? Do you guys hear that? It's like they're married, but then they say they're not married. But aren't you? I mean, how dumb? How
On
stupid?
the paperwork, they tried to say that I'm Miss, but how can I be a Miss of my married name?
Right.
There's no way I can be a Miss to my married name. Now, yeah, Mrs., but not Miss to my married name. And whenever we would say that, we'd ask them, so hold on here a second. You want to say that I would call them out on it. Oh, you say I'm Miss with my married name. How can I be a Miss with my husband's last name who I'm married to? Really come and think through that. They never would have an answer. They would automatically shut down. We're done with the conversation. Let's end it for today. We're hanging up, or, we're done with the meeting. And my attorney, the one time, stepped up and said, and this was a court appointed attorney. That was the only time she really stepped up for me, which was a shock. She said, no, she said, she has a validated point here. Why are we calling her Miss with her married last name if she's married? Why are you saying she's not married? Here's the proof to verify she's married. So why are you trying to say this mother is not married to the father? And then they automatically went to, oh, our oldest daughter, my husband is not the father to that child. And we were married basically right around a year before we even had our daughter. And she looks like her dad to the T. Her actions, her gestures, everything are her daddy. Georgette, my little girls.
I do. I do.
So,
Guys, she's real quick. Lizzie is a great mom, and her husband Dan is a sweetheart. Like he's a gentle soul. Dan is a gentle soul. Man, he's a gentle
I'm
soul.
sorry, he's not here right now. I'd let you all say hi. He's at work. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But like Darren,
He can be
Darren,
here.
right? It's okay. But Darren is the same way. He's a great dad, but Darren is more of a fighter. Darren is
Mhm.
more like, I'm gonna protect my family. I'm gonna go to war for my family. That's what a dad is.
Dan
That's
gets
what
like that when it
a father
comes down to
is.
his kids.
A
Yep.
father fights for his family. A father,
Mhm.
a dad, a dad. Not everybody can be a father,
Dan
but a
is quiet. Yeah. Yep.
dad,
Dan's
dad.
quiet, Georgette, and laid back, more chill. But when it comes down to his family, he gets very aggressive featured.
No, but not no. They're two different personalities. Just believe me on that one.
Yeah.
Dan is a gentle soul, but yes, he would be different verbally. But Darren is
Yeah.
more. He's like the Marine. He's
Mhm.
a Marine. He's like,
Right.
huh, let
Yeah.
me put on my
Just basically go into
yeah,
him with full force method. Yeah.
yeah. Darren
Yeah,
is
you
like,
don't mess with it. Don't
guys.
mess with that family, man. Don't mess with the family.
Darren, if you're Darren's friend, you'll be like protected for your life, like the whole lifetime, like your lifetime. Like that's the kind of man he is, and it's so.
Yeah, I'm the good neighbor to have. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's a good friend. He's a good brother. He's a good husband. He's a good dad. And
Yes.
like everybody, like Darren said on yesterday's show, he said anybody can be a father.
Oh yeah.
Anyone can be a father. Just because you have sperms and you got a woman pregnant doesn't make you a dad,
Mhm.
right? There's a huge
Yep.
difference. When he said
There's
that to
a
me,
difference between a dad and a non-dad.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
a dad is very important. A dad will respect the mother of his
Yeah.
children, whether you're
Amen.
together or not. You respect the mother of your children. Because if you hate the mother of your children, then you hate your damn children. Put that in your head, you idiots out there.
Yep.
Put it in
Amen.
your head. If you
I
hate the mother of
agree.
the children, you hate the children
Mm-hmm.
because she took care of them.
Yep.
I have
Carried them
heard
for 9 months.
I have heard grandmothers introduce
That's just the
their
thing they have.
daughter-in-laws. I mean, sorry, what do you call them? Mother-in-laws introduce their daughter-in-laws as, oh, this is my daughter-in-law, the incubator.
Yeah.
Incubator. I know damn well the women on this show. If you guys hear that, you will be pissed. If you had a mother-in-law introduce you as the incubator. You guys know what an incubator is, right? Are you guys aware of that? Oh, Dan?
Hi, Georgette.
Hi, Danny. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I am okay. Thank God. Oh my
Good.
God,
Good
I
to see
missed you,
you.
man. I haven't seen you for
Miss
a
you
long
too.
time.
I know. It's been a
You grew a
while.
beard and everything. I mean, well,
Yeah.
damn, the beard got longer too. The beard.
Yeah, it did.
Oh my God, you look great, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You
So
too.
look, Darren, meet Dan, Darren. I know you can see
Virtual
Darren, and then
muggles right there. Got you.
yeah, Barbara and Dr. Fowler. And we have a good team here. It's so good to see you, Dan.
You too. Thank you, Georgette.
I'm going to now go to Dr. Fowler. You look like
Yeah.
Dr. Fowler. She's listening to all of us. Like
Mhm.
you
I
hear,
was muted.
you hear us. You hear us.
Mhm.
Is there something you want to share with everyone, Dr. Fowler, that can help people who are listening um, to us currently?
Oh, good evening, everyone. Greetings. I simply want to share that I've been giving more thought to the broader campaign to shut down CPS and its devices. I've spoken with some young people recently who have access to social media who may be able to connect myself earlier to high profile people on YouTube. just to throw out a name like Candace Owens. I mean, not for her politics or anything like that, but just to access her and maybe her platform. And one of the young people said to me, "Well, if you get rid of CPS, what do you replace it with?" And I said to her, "Well, these are younger people in their late 20s." And I said to her, when I was growing up, we used to have these movies that were swashbuckling movies where the hero goes on a journey and gets to the mouth of the cave, and the 12-headed, dragon comes out, and the hero slays the dragon. The hero doesn't turn around and say, "What do we replace the dragon with?" So she didn't quite get it. But my answer to her would be that we would take over the care of our children and the nation as families. We don't need a replacement for CPS. We need a family-based system to care for our children. I wish to destroy CPS the same way it's destroyed hundreds of millions of families and lives across the generations. I can't name one youth of the many that I know who's been in foster care, who says it was great, it was wonderful to be passed around from home to home, and I was always well taken care of, and I recommend it for anyone. So what I have to offer, unlike some of you, I'm a grandmother of a child in captivity who was kidnapped from my arms during the course of a medical interview at our local children's hospital, October 7th. The baby was 5 months old. I was just about to sit down with the neurologist at the children's hospital and talk about possible seizure disorder. I wanted to order the placenta testing to find out possibly what substances mother was using in utero. I saw signs, I thought, of absent seizures. I'm somewhat familiar with that because the other two grandchildren have genetic loading for certain things. So if I were to take my granddaughter out of the hospital before I had the full assessment, I would be accused of some form of abuse or neglect. Mm-hmm. But a state-sponsored employee can literally kidnap her from my arms and disrupt that. And I'm 1,000% sure, since none of the current handlers know about her medical record, that she's had no attention for her neurological health. Mm-hmm. As you and I know, every time someone has a seizure, they lose oxygen to the brain. So the baby's out there in the world on their own, being passed from person to person. I am in court every time there's a dependency hearing, trying to simply get the judge to hear me. I'm still awaiting a custody date. The dependency hearing before the last one, we appeared in court, the judge didn't come. During the last hearing, the judge claimed that he didn't get, I'm going to use my words, full receipt of my custody petition. Mm-hmm. He was holding up a folder saying I didn't get the pack and I didn't get the folder and screaming at my attorney. Mm-hmm. In my estimation, of course he got it. All of the stakeholders in the court have it. You can see on their laptops that they have the petition. When you go to family court here, you go downstairs, you go to the clerk, they take the petition, they stamp it in just like they do in other courts. It's date stamped. In Montgomery County, you get a physical sticker. It gets a court number, and it appears on the docket within hours. Mm-hmm. There's no way that the judge could not have the petition. But after screaming at my attorney and telling myself and my family members to leave the courtroom, he did something ironic, which was to direct my lawyer to stay. This is after he told us that he would give us a court date. And technically, I wasn't allowed to have any representation in the courtroom because I haven't intervened yet. For those of you have different terminology in different states. Here in Pennsylvania, I have filed many times something called a motion to intervene, which is my request of the court to allow me to come into the courtroom, to sit during the dependency proceedings, and to even have a voice, to enter testimony, or to be able to ask questions, or to be acknowledged as a party to my granddaughter's dependency action. Otherwise, technically, no one in the world is allowed to be in that courtroom and hear any testimony.
Right.
My motion to intervene has never been entertained. Judge denied it. We put it up there again. It still hasn't even been heard. But on this day, my attorney was able to hear the testimony of the worker for CPS who testified that mom, all the things we already know about mom. She hasn't done anything to comply with the family plan, the home plan. I already knew that. And she's also now adjudged to be an endangerment to the baby. We already knew that. I have a PFA in my testimony to that effect, but I was adjudged to be just somebody who's mad at her daughter. And just that grandmother that just wants to throw her own life away and live for taking care of other people's children, because it's also glorious to give up your career, your savings, your retirement, and for a while to live in poverty. That was my goal in life. I've achieved it. And not to live like other retired people my age, but to look forward to now going back into the workforce, maybe. I'm glad that God has given me life, health, and strength to be able to do that. Thank you so much for listening. So for those of you who are not familiar, at least in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, if you are a grandparent and you have a grandchild involved in the dependency system, which means DHS is in your life, you automatically have standing for custody during an open dependency matter. And this is a ruling called Pennsylvania 23-53-24, which gives grandparents standing for custody if you've come to know the grandchild through the parents, through the court, if you have the ability to take care of the grandchild, if one or the other parents if the parents have lost control of the child, and if the child has not lived with you in loco parentis. Here, loco parentis means the child has lived with you under your roof continually for a year. Well, my granddaughter was only 5 months old. But she was still domiciled with me. So I meet the criteria for standing for custody.
I know.
The minute I appeared in court, I have greater standing for custody now than I would through the normal family court portal, which is different. Through the normal family court portal, I would have to prove that one or the other parent is incapable. I would have a fight with the parents. There's nothing that automatically conveys custody to me if there weren't this dependency problem. But 23-53-24 is a provision for grandparents to intervene when there is a problem, when there is dependency. Furthermore, because my daughter, there's no father involvement, but because my daughter is, for all intents and purposes, non-custodial, by law, I have the standing to step into her place so that there is someone on the maternal side representing my grandchild. So after 3 attempts, I don't even have a custody date. My lawyer here, I've finally gotten a good lawyer. You've heard my grievances about my past lawyers. He's wonderful. He told me I could name him. If you guys want to hear his name, he's a lovely person. He's even appeared to come on the show with me with Mr. Davis. Time is right. He's been very faithful. He's been unlike any other lawyer I've ever met. He calls you. He answers immediately. He answers text messages immediately. He's come to court without complaining. The last time we were there, we waited 3 hours. No complaints. And he really does the best that he can to advocate. And he stood up to the judge who screamed at them. We've got this judge that likes to scream and kind of threaten and menace people. So on the one hand, the judge did me a bit of a courtesy for allowing me to hear through my lawyer's ears the testimony about the mother and how now there's an order against her to stay away from the baby. Oh my God. So that was helpful to know. I still feel compassion for my daughter, anyone who's had this series of 302 involuntary psychiatric commitments, self-reported arrests, homelessness. It just goes on and on. But at the same time, my duty is to my grandchild. I can feel compassion, but not at detriment of myself and the grandchildren. So at any rate, some people refer to 23-53-24 as the grandparents' law. So that would be in Pennsylvania. So any of you who are grandparents who are listening, you might want to look that up. If you just look up 23, it's pretty easy to read, actually. It's not written in elliptical legal language. So my lawyer he went to the judge's chambers as he was told to deliver the packet to get a court date. No one was there. He was told to mail it. He mailed it. It's sitting in judge's chambers without a court date. So that's the status of that. Apologies to you, Madam Chair, Ms. Truen, and to everyone else for my late appearance this evening. When you began, I was finally on the telephone with a representative from CARO, C-A-R-O. It's the Commissioner's Action Response Organization here in Pennsylvania. That is the entity that you can go to file a complaint about a situation such as this. Now, I've been filing the complaint since October. This was the first day that was actually escalated and acknowledged, and someone called me, and the person listened. I tried to be succinct. She listened very compassionately, and she's promised me that if this case goes around the circle and goes back to her by Tuesday, she will respond. What do you want, Dr. Fowler? I want two things. I wish for you to conduct an investigation on the social worker who sees the baby in the middle of a medical appointment without any probable cause. Darren was just talking about this. I want to verify what he said. The social worker presented no statement of probable cause, no paperwork of probable cause, no warrant. There was no police officer, but she had me literally so terrified. And I'm not easily afraid. I'm not easily intimidated. Kind of an old-fashioned farm girl who's also been around. But I swear to you, on October the 7th, I was so morbidly terrified. The only thing in my mind is that this lady's going to call the sheriff and have the sheriff at my door next to arrest me. Mm-hmm. And if I go to jail, who am I to my granddaughter? I didn't even think I'm in Montgomery County. All I got to do is call the police again, like I did before, when she just tried to have the baby snatched out of my living room and say, hello, police, here she is again. Can you please come and call the situation? And the police would have told the social worker, you don't have jurisdiction here. You have no paperwork. You have to go away.
Right.
So my family is blamed for me for that. Of course, I've already taken myself through 1,000 tears and 1,000 deaths because I didn't think. It literally didn't even go through my mind to call the police that day. Haven't seen my granddaughter since. The social worker came to court since then and entered malicious false testimony, alleging that I'm an endangerment to my granddaughter's health, alleging that I improperly fed her, and requesting that the judge did what he did, which is to issue a stay-away order against me so that I can no longer even monitor my granddaughter's health record. I'm locked out of that. And I'm not supposed to go to the social workers agency. Who wants to go there anyway? When I was there for the family visit, she permitted said party to tamper with the baby's food and steal her clothing. And she stood over me and threatened me and my bodyguard. Very, very toxic, very, very threatening, very, very menacing. From the time my granddaughter was delivered to me, August 23rd until October 2nd, every contact with the social worker is, I'm going to take that baby from you.
And they actually do say that. They actually do say it. People who are listening right now, they actually do say that. They intimidate you and gaslight you.
I'm going to take that baby from you. I'm going to tell the judge whatever it is. You're a problem. I'm going to take that baby. She planned this from the inception. Again, for those of you who may not know, here in Pennsylvania, when you consent to take a child into your home who has been taken into DHS custody, you are to be delivered 3 instruments. This is really important and maybe more than you can hear, but if you're in this situation, instrument number 1 is the shelter care order. That's where the court has met, the stakeholders have met as soon as they take the child and they decide where the child is to be placed for shelter. In this case, I'm maternal grandmother, so I'm identified by my familial relationship on that order simply as MGN. I wasn't in court. I couldn't be in court, so I am not specifically named. This is kind of it's a boilerplate order, and it also specifies whether the parents are to have family visits, and if so, where. That's essentially it. The second, so that shows the world that the child has been placed. The second instrument is called a kinship award letter. That's on city stationery. That names me. It says my name, Dr. Tanya Fowler, has the authority now to resource the child's medical and education. Right. That identifies me by name in addition, in relation to the child. The third thing is a safety plan. Who needs a safety plan? I've taken care of 11 foster kids and other grandkids. But the safety plan tells you who to call, what to do. The one that I've had before isn't even filled out. It's supposed to have protocol. They don't, usually, but you're supposed to get that. This social worker, the baby was placed with me August 23rd. On August 24th, I should have had that shelter order. By August 25th, I should have had the kinship award letter. It takes 72 hours. In fact, she should have been at my door delivering those 3 instruments to me in person. She refused to deliver those because she said, I'm not giving you those because I'm going to take that baby from you. So she prohibited me and obstructed me from getting the baby health care for weeks. When I found a healthcare provider who agreed to take the baby in my county without any proof, she obstructed that and threatened me, you can't take her there. If you take her there, I'll take that baby from you. She directed me to go to Center City, to where she wanted me to take the baby. And she proceeded, how many hundreds of biomedical interviews have I been in as an instructor? In 30 years of practice as a medical anthropologist, I have never before heard of anyone interfering in the doctor's visit the way this woman interfered. Yep. She came on the telephone and alleged that I wasn't feeding the baby properly. And you've got these young doctors who are 28 years old. What do they know about infant care? They're just barely out of diapers themselves, not to besmirch young age. But I'm looking at them and they're telling me how to lay the baby down. And I'm going, yeah, okay. Well, you're not feeding her, this standardized formula. No, I'm not. Why not? Well, first of all, we're in the middle of a formula crisis. I don't know if you heard, but parents who want this can't get it. Secondarily, I don't know if you heard, but the baby was taken to the hospital because mom was giving her that and it disagreed with her. She was having severe digestive problems. So why would I continue to give her something that was reported as making her sick? Secondarily, this flimsy vegetable-based stuff isn't cutting the grid. So I feed her what my mama gave me and what I've been giving all my babies. Coconut milk, almond milk. I don't know if you know this, but coconut milk and or the water. Don't quote me. One or the other, or both of them, was given to soldiers during the war because the coconut water replicates blood plasma. You don't think that's good enough to feed a baby? In combination with bananas, applesauce, the universal good food for the young, the sick, the infirm. You don't think the baby was thriving? Nobody ever heard of a 5-month-old baby that was sleeping through the night, just blissful, waking up in the morning singing and happy. I'm happy. This woman saw that and the beauty of this baby. And you mentioned mulatto babies. She's gorgeous. Full head of hair. She's a prime suspect for the baby market. What have they done to my granddaughter? Sampled her DNA? What,
With all due respect, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but these people are after everybody's baby, whether you're Black, white, Chinese, biracial, it doesn't matter, because you guys have to keep in mind, social workers have different foster parents, different ethnicity, different everything. They have different requests. So oftentimes we'll say, I want a white baby with blue eyes and blonde hair.
Of course,
but I want a Black baby, or I want a biracial baby, or I want a Japanese baby, or I want a Chinese baby, or I want Chinese mixed with
just to your point, thank you so much.
Baby. I mean, it's more of a preference. So this became a money making machine. And,
Well,
and,
of
and Senator
course.
Nancy Schaefer has expressed that before she was murdered several times. Some money making machine. Nancy Schaefer, she was a senator for Georgia who lost her seat on the Senate because she exposed Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, like I said earlier, and the corruption of CPS and doctors who are forced, or some of them comply, lying about abuse and neglect, all that bullshit. But when she didn't stop exposing the department and Bill Clinton and his wife, um she started getting attacked. She started getting like death threats, and she was also writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, she was also writing a book. So in 2014 she was murdered, and
Mm-hmm.
her husband and her were married forever. I mean, that woman was older, like she was, I don't know, maybe 80s, I don't know, maybe. Darren, what do you think? Was she around 80 or 75 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Was she even that old? I mean, I can look it up, but I don't think she was that old. But I mean, this is real what they're talking about here,
Yeah.
people. You got to understand, right to what the doctor was saying, um,
Oh, I'm sorry.
right to what everybody with the Nancy Schaefer. I mean, don't sit here and think, oh, look at these crazy folks with the tinfoil on their head. Like, this stuff is real. This gang stalking that happens, it's real. The children are being trafficked. The children are not only being trafficked for adoption, they're being trafficked for grosser and more grotesque things. I don't even want to bring it up, but you can just go ahead and take that with you. Know this, that it's not a sweet adoption what's going on with some of these children, and it's sickening to say. So this whole entire thing needs someone of statute to come out and
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm going to be the face. I think we talked about it yesterday. The doctor talked about it. We all talked about it. Did you guys get that clip I sent you of Dr. Phil where he was questioning CPS?
No, where?
Oh, I
Where?
didn't get
I
that.
put it in your links yesterday, right in this. I'll give it to the private
No,
group
you
chat.
have to text it in the group text for everybody.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, but because what's really going on here is it's terrible, and it's gonna be the end of the human race in reality. If you think of everything that these guys, they're promoting same-sex adoptions, they're
Mhm.
promoting, everything that's not the traditional family. Um, and I can't emphasize enough of how scary that must be. Now we're all adults and it hurts us, it crushes us that our babies are taken and all of this. Can you imagine being that little child that was just ripped from its safety net and brought into a complete strange situation?
But a
No.
That's
demon has no remorse, Darren.
And
A demon has
I'm
no
sorry,
remorse.
Darren. I've lived it over and over again. The things you
mm,
don't imagine. I swear to you, as a
oh,
mother,
as I do as well.
Mhm.
And
it,
it sucks. It's terrible. I had a friend of ours. He said, like the mothers and the fathers that get this, we are just as involved in the trafficking as them. Like we're all insane at this point. Like we're all, I'd imagine, in some sort of law system, we could almost be considered criminally insane. If we acted out or lashed out, because this is ridiculous what they do. They have proven through research that this removing a child is not the proper way to do things. So why are they still doing? Why do they have 3.5 million, uh, you know, searches and whatever a year, and less than 5% of those turn into some sort of an allegation that's even worth looking at? Why? You want to talk about doing things wrong? No more of this incentive for these son of a bitches that are working. They're just lying through their job anyway. They're skipping through their steps. They don't give a shit about these kids, and people need to realize what's really going on. This is our government. We are the people. They work for us. They don't tell us what to do. They listen to what we say they need to do. That's it. They are our children. Keep tabs on them. Stop these people from taking them.
in keeping with what you're
Unite these.
saying, Darren, here in Philadelphia, when you go downtown to DHS, you got children being surrendered and abandoned every day. They're in an office building.
Yeah.
They don't even have cots. They're on the desk or on the floor, 10, 20 children a
Yeah,
night
but how come they have plenty of money, right?
with nowhere to go but they steal children like
Right.
our children from loving families.
Mhm.
We cannot replace this system. It's time to burn it down. Let my children go.
Yes, they
And
should let. They need to let all of them. They all anything that's been taken. Um, if their parents were willing to fight for them, give them back, because this is wrong. Because you can't say that they do all of this investigating and only this many and this many, because they got most of them wrong. I'll bet you it's 99% wrong they've got. Because like we always say, like Miss G says, unfortunately, the crackhead babies aren't the ones that they're taking. And if they do take them, those ones aren't the ones that are being adopted, unfortunately. So again, they're taking middle class, strong, strong families, good genes. No, like, why do they worry about what your family history is when they come and take your child? Oh, tell me about your family. What's your family lineage? What's your family history? Why? Because reunification is supposed to be the goal here, right? So why are we even talking about something that's the demise of my family? But what, that's none of your fucking business, really. That's the way I see that. But that's what the joke about reunification. Reunification, my ass. They said 2 weeks before the TPR hearing of one of my friends, he went to a judicial review and they still were promoting reunification, but they were TPRing him in 2 weeks. Now, how the hell does that work? How can a judge sit on a bench and order Department of Human Services that reunification is the goal, and in the same sentence say, and we'll see y'all next week in 2 weeks for the TPR?
Yep.
How does that work?
Because they're saving their behind. They're saving their behind from a lawsuit. You guys don't get it. They want things documented, but their actions are saying something else. That's what you guys don't understand. Their
No,
actions
totally understand it.
contradicts what they're
That
saying.
was
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people who don't know the system is broken. Those are the ones I'm talking about. They don't see what's really going on because they only think it's working. It's not working. The system doesn't work. They lie. They manipulate. They withhold evidence, for God's sakes.
well,
the people turn their lies.
I'm sorry. So again, in keeping with what you're saying, again, here in Pennsylvania, the law is called family find. And each time with my grandson last year, family find has not been engaged. Total violation. It's not a choice. It's supposed to be the law. And it's supposed to be that, let's suppose you decided that grandma gave the baby a half an ounce too much applesauce. That was your reason for taking her from grandma. Then before you take her from grandma, you're supposed to engage family find. You're supposed to go through the family to find a placement with the family.
Okay. No,
We cannot find out why, what the explanation is for not even attempting family find. In addition to, you're saying during the goal of reunification, when a woman has had a succession of children taken from her, she has a documented history of drug abuse, psychiatric illness alone does not substantiate having your children taken away. I understand that. I think all of us are just one molecule away from breaking down, really, as signs of the times. I think if you're normal, you're probably considered a lunatic by everybody else because you're probably you're in the medical minority. So, or you feel crazy if you're normal.
Hey guys, I want to give a chance to Dan to speak because Dan has been waiting. So Lizzie, where's Dan, honey? I know he was waiting.
Yeah, he just went up to finish eating. I had to help take care of some stuff here. So he'll be back on. He'll be back on a little bit. We have a dog that's been going through seizures. So him and I are going to be switching out a lot to deal with the seizures because he can only deal so much. So
I'm so sorry, Lizzie.
And he just got home from work, so he's really tired.
I know. He's always tired.
Him and I will be switching out here and there to deal with a seizure dog right now, but and him eating.
Maybe next week it will be a little different. Next week we'll schedule it a little different.
I'm hoping it'll be different because we weren't expecting the seizures either, and he can go through an hour to 2 hour seizure time. So he's on his deathbed. So
poor dude.
Yeah, we're really struggling. It's my service dog, so that's really hard on me. Yeah, so when he's going through the seizures, it affects me pretty bad, and it gets to a point that I feel like I have to go and be there because it's my service dog, and a lot of times he does better if I'm right there. So
So why don't you maybe next time just let Dan do a little bit of the show? You don't have to do the whole entire hour and a half or 2 hours,
yeah,
and that just take care of your service dog, because I know how much
yeah,
that dog means to you guys too.
it does. I've spent weeks crying because he's on his deathbed, so it's been hard.
I know, Lizzie. I know.
But
I'm so sorry.
unfortunately, Dan just got home from work and he does need to eat. So it's a little hectic when he just gets home.
It's
So
okay, but
hopefully,
like
as
I
soon
said,
as he
next
gets
time,
done eating, he can
Hey,
come
that's
back
family
on then.
life.
that's family life, honey. It's called
Yeah,
family life. We do
it
that for,
is.
yeah. So
Hey,
why
It
don't
Dr.
is.
it does why don't you go ahead and attend to what you need to do, and then next week we're gonna do it a little different. How's that? I'm gonna talk to you and Dan later on tonight, or you.
That
He's probably
that'd be
listening.
fine. Yeah, he'll probably go back out to work later on once the seizure's over and stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. So I will. Okay, so let's talk tonight, and then next week I'm gonna let you know what we need to do. Okay, go attend to your dog. I love you.
Sounds good. I love you, Georgette. Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut everybody off. That's why I didn't want to get off here, but
It's okay.
I'm enjoying this.
So
Thank
I'm,
you all so much. And I hope you all have a good evening. And Georgette, I'll hear from you later then.
you always will. All right.
All
I'll
right.
talk.
Dr.
Thank you,
Fowler,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
did I, Dr. Fowler, I heard you were talking about Candace, right? Our good friend Candace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you
Candace
know
always
about
is really, she's a straight shooter too.
Say it
Candace
again.
always.
Say it again, Darren.
you know about like her nonprofit and everything, right? You know about all of that good stuff that she's laying down.
Not really. I just know that I catch her show sometimes, and I just see how she's evolved over the past couple of years after she's become a mother.
Well, I'm talking about. Well, check this out. I thought you were talking about the small person, big voice, small. What did she change it to now? She had a small individual, large voice girl. That it's so funny that you have that. So she has a plan, because you also need to talk about. We talk about taking the system down, but what do we do to build it back up? How does this go? I mean, this thing needs to be destroyed, but it's got to start from ground
We have
zero,
to
right?
cut down the incentives that they get.
Are you
It's not the police that we need to focus on defunding. It's CPS.
Right.
are you
But what
talking
happens?
about a
How do
different
we restore?
Candace?
How do we restore this? Like,
I
how do
might
we?
be talking about a different Candace. I just, for a random name, I threw out the
Okay,
name
I'm talking
Candace
about Candace
Owens.
Owens.
Oh, it's
She's
funny. I'm
a
going to send you this name right
conservative
here. She's probably
commentator.
blowing up right now that I just threw her on here.
Candace, I saw you write about Candace Edwards.
Yes,
We
Candace
were
Edwards
talking
is the
about
one I was
Candace
talking about.
Owens.
Okay,
Two
well,
different,
who's
Ah,
Candace
yes.
Edwards? Who is she?
two different people.
Yeah,
And who is
she's
Candace Edwards?
Candace Edwards is pretty much the front runner in this movement. She's making a lot of noise. She's an awesome person. She has a whole system in place ready for when this thing comes down to build it back up. She was commenting. She was watching the show the other day. I know she's watching right now. So I think she would be a good one to get on. She would love to be on the show with you, Miss G,
Okay,
for
why
sure.
doesn't she just call me? Give her my cell number.
All right. Well, I don't just give people cell numbers out. I have to talk to you about it first, and that was it. So, Candace, I'm gonna give you Miss G's cell number, and you can get in touch, and she'll be psyched about this.
I would love to have her.
That's Candace Edwards.
Yeah, small individual with a huge voice is what she goes by. You'll find if there's any CPS corruption or any corruption, anything, she'll be there. She got the southern draw, and her mouth is big.
All right,
She
I
gets
want
a
you
lot
on
of-
this. I want you on the show. I can't wait to speak with you today. Wait, what state is she in?
She's in Alabama. And she
Alabama.
too is Yeah,
I'm
she's an
from
Alabama girl. So she too is
Alabama.
going through all of this same thing that we are. She's a veteran also. So it's a little I can't believe that being a veteran that they allow her to even be put through this crap. But they don't care. They just don't care. They have no homage to anything. These CPS people. It's pretty disgusting.
I don't think there are a lot of immunities, but I would like to also I'm sorry, before I forget and before other things happen with my family, when we were talking about adoption last night, it put a new fear of God in me. And I called a few lawyers today, maybe 6 or 7 of them. It's the daily trend here. And according to the lawyers here, again in Pennsylvania, I can't file for adoption because here you have to file for adoption and also termination of rights at the same time. And it's premature. I can't do that until the disposition is had with the dependency matter.
I'll tell you what the fear of God is when the Supreme Court of the state denies your appeal. That's what the fear of God is. Now you're on borrowed time.
And I would talk to a CPS attorney about that, because with the baby already being in the system, if you wait till the TPR comes about, they've already got a family lined up to adopt that baby.
That is
Being
so
in the system, if your daughter had just given you the baby and said, "Hey, mom, will you take care of the baby?" Then you have to terminate the rights and get the adoption. But my understanding is once the child's in the system, it's not on you to do the termination, but you start the paperwork to let the court know, I'm first in line. I want to adopt the child. I wasn't told this. This is something I just learned not long ago.
But that's day one. Day
Yeah.
one. Day one. Don't wait until day one. You have to have, Mr. Davis says, 25 names of people all over the world. Friends, families, best friend, uncle, sibling, anybody. 25 people, names, phone numbers, addresses.
And it still sucks. That whole thing still sucks having to even do that. I mean, that's not.
Wait, I know, but this is to set up your case, you guys. If they refuse to do that, then you're setting your case up for a civil case as well. You have to understand there's a strategy and steps for everything. You have to do things right in order for you to have a good case. So when you even appeal it, you're going to have a good, solid appeal. Because, go ahead, Darren.
Well, I'm just thinking that maybe we hold off on this conversation. I think this would be a good spot to start for a follow. I mean, we're into this for a while now, and I bet we could go on this, but maybe like a next for the current events thing, we talk about what is like step 1, step 2, step 3, like the walkthrough of things that people should do. I think that would be a good topic to take on because we could all discuss, multiple do's and don'ts and what's and nots and if nots. That would be, very much, instead of trying to win this subject off on a, whatever. I mean, however long we're on, but I'm just saying, like, I think that could almost take a whole show of, I mean, a lot of information to be had, a lot of learning between the bunch of us, so, I mean, there's a lot of experience. Unfortunately, there's a lot of experience here, but it's good that we're all together and we're going to spread this and we're going to beat these bastards because enough's enough.
And I honestly, I agree. We need to be able to, well, let's talk about it later and see which.
I just don't want to whip this subject by and then we don't bring it back up, because I think that that's a very good topic subject to, really focus on, and then.
Okay, and let's finish that, and let's finish it next week then.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
We can focus on it. You guys make the memo, because after this show, I'm gonna have to go back to work. So,
me too.
So the show, you guys, is not going to be just an hour show. It can go up to 2 hours. Okay. So because we're going to have more people on the show, and then Darren has Candace, right? Did you say Candace? Yeah. Candace might join us. I'm going to have to.
Candace, please, let me tell you right now, as soon as we hang up, she's going to pop across this portal she's been listening to us on, and she's going to be like, Darren, you bastard, you got me on that show. She's going to be so excited.
Okay, I'm going to speak to Candace, and she might join us hopefully next week. And we're going to have, like I said, you guys, please spread this to everyone, not just CPS cases and mothers that have CPS cases, but everyone, even your friends, your coworkers, everyone, please. So we can bring awareness. So we are covered, meaning if a coworker has another friend who's going through CPS, now she knows what to tell her. She knows how to guide her, right? That's our whole goal. We need to spread the word. Please, I'm begging you, spread the word and be kind to one another. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys for joining me.
Hi, Barb. Barbara, how are you?
Yes, all the way, babies.
Yes.
Well, everyone, have a blessed and wonderful weekend. Have a great night. God bless you all.
You too.
Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Dr. Fowler, and thank you, handsome Darren. I will see you guys.
It's getting hot in here.
I know. Where's the fashion show?
Did you notice? You didn't even notice how many times? There's a question, Georgia. Remember we talked about that? We'll do that. How many times do I change my clothes during the show? You
At
didn't even
least
notice
3
today.
times today.
3 times.
3 times today. Yeah, it was 3 times. Yeah.
Oh my God, Barb, you're like, oh, I love you, Barb. Oh, I didn't think you were paying attention.
Well, no.
That's why she wasn't talking. She was watching me the whole freaking time.
Really?
No, I was sharing the video.
She had a one camera zoom on me the whole time.
Barb is awesome.
That's why a lot of people are going to be tuning in.
Uh-huh.
The fashion show.
Yeah, everybody.
All right, my
Speaking of
dears.
that, next week.
God
we'll
bless.
all look good.
God bless.
God bless you guys. Bye.